Ryan Routh is going to be sentenced before a judge. He is the attempted Trump assassin in the second assassination attempt on the president's life, the one that happened in South Florida. So Ryan Routh going to be appearing in court in Port St. Lucie, in Fort Pierce later today, where he will be sentenced. And so joining us live now to talk about this case and what we can expect with all of this, as this wild legal road has kind of comes to an end in this case. We've got a defense attorney out of West Palm Beach, Michelle Suskauer, who is joining us live now to talk about this case. Michelle, we appreciate you joining us here on Fox 35 News Plus today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Michelle, this has been a very interesting and fascinating case to watch in a lot of ways, kind of coming to an end with the sentencing. Today we know that Routh faces a potential life sentence. What do you expect to see in this, given everything that has happened?
Well, this has been just a very, very unusual case for a variety of reasons. And so, although I don't think that the ultimate outcome today is going to be a surprise to anyone. And it's unusual because, first of all, it's in federal court. It was a jury trial that happened back in September. And the defendant actually represented himself, which is something that's never advised. And the court has to go through specific questions and have a hearing to make sure that the defendant understands the dangers and understands and has the ability to provide representation for him or herself. And the court does that very carefully because you don't want to create an appellate issue. So the defendant, Mr. Routh, represented himself, which is always a challenge for the court and the jury because they don't understand federal criminal procedure. He did have some standby federal public defenders there if he needed some assistance or wanted some assistance. But it was a really crazy trial that lasted about 2.5 weeks.
You talked about him representing himself. We know that is one reason that the original kind of sentencing date was pushed back from the original date in December to today, because the judge deciding he needed representation for the sentencing. Why for the sentencing would a judge say, okay, he needs representation out there today?
Actually, I think Mr. Routh wanted the representation and got representation not just for the sentencing, but for the for any appeal as well. So obviously that's very wise. It's important to have representation. It's a very, very important and critical point, even though the trial already happened. And so the court permitted this to be bumped for, approximately 2 months. So Mr. Routh can have counsel present and who can prepare. And what happened in between the trial and the sentencing is there's a pre-sentence report that's prepared. And so everyone has input. The government has input as to what they want to see occur. Probation has input, and so does the defense. And the court is going to review all of that and review his federal sentencing guidelines to then pronounce the sentence. And we expect that the sentence is going to be pronounced today. The government is asking for life, and the defense will be asking for something called a variance, or something that would be less than life, and is giving reasons that one of them is Mr. Routh's age. He's almost 60 and is looking for a sentence that will provide appropriate punishment but is not excessive.
What would a judge how would a judge come to that determination? Obviously, very serious charges here, an attempted assassination on a political figure. So what would a judge be kind of considering and taking into mind when looking at these arguments and deciding what to do here?
Well, I think the court looks for a variety of things, looks for whether or not there's any acceptance of responsibility, which in this particular case, there is not. That's a significant issue for the court. And of course, looking if someone has any prior criminal history or contact with the criminal justice system, looking at the facts themselves, the number of charges that and the nature of the charges that the defendant was convicted of. Obviously, things that happened during the trial that came into evidence, and again, what the recommendations are from both parties. So I don't think it's going to be a surprise. I would think the court probably is going to lean closer to what the government is asking for. If not life, then pretty much close to it. Mr. Routh, I think, is just shy of 60. And so anything over 20 years pretty much is life.
Well, I would imagine part of the consideration has to be sending a message as well, doesn't it? That things like this are not going to be accepted and aren't tolerated in the legal system?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. And I think there are so many eyes on this case as to what's going to happen. Again, this was a serious matter, an attempted assassination of then candidate Trump. And, looking at the facts of this was something, according to the evidence that came out, that was planned. That was not a spur of the moment, that Mr. Routh was in hiding, that he was armed at a place where, then candidate Trump was playing golf. And that there was an assault on a federal law enforcement officer, a Secret Service agent who actually spotted him. And so I think it's very significant. And of course, there's a message that's going to be sent. But again, now we're dealing with now President Trump. And so I think that it's very likely that Mr. Routh is going to be sentenced to the rest of his life in federal prison.
When you talk about appeals and things moving forward, because we know that it won't end fully today, what will some of the arguments that the defense makes on appeal when it comes to trying to get, whatever sentence lessened or whatever the case may be?
Again, this case is sort of chock full of potential issues. And again, I'm not saying that there will be a reversal. But when you have an individual who's charged with something this serious, who's representing themselves, certainly the appellate courts are going to be looking at the colloquy, the conversation between the court and the defendant to make sure that he understood what he was doing, any evidence that came in, witnesses that testified, so jury selection. So there certainly are many, many issues. And this was a long trial. This was approximately 2.5-week trial with multiple witnesses. And so the appellate courts are going to look at all of those issues to make sure that everything that was done, that Mr. Routh received a fair trial, even though he represented himself, that he understood what he was doing. And this could, go on for years and years. But in the meantime, Mr. Routh is not going to be out pending the appeal. He is going to be beginning to serve whatever sentence the court deems is appropriate at the time.
All right. A lot of intricacies to this case. Michelle Suskauer, attorney, we appreciate you joining us and breaking all that down for us. You did a great job explaining kind of what all has happened and where things go from here. We appreciate your time and your expertise here on Fox 35
Thank you so
News
much.
Plus. Thank you.